In this video, we're going to discuss some examples where we need to find probabilities using the standard normal distribution. Right. So there's three types of examples that we're going to talk about. The first is when we need to find the area to the left of a particular z-score. So say the z-score is here 0. We'll talk about how to find the area to the left of any particular z-score. Okay. And then another type of example we're going to discuss is finding the area to the right. So for the same value, for the same z-score, how would you find the area to the right? Okay, and then the third, most tricky type of problem that we're going to discuss is how to find the area between two intervals, or between an interval, within an interval, right? How do you find this area in this interval? Okay, so let's go ahead and jump in. Let's get started. So first, finding the areas to the left. So the first example says, find the probability that z is less than negative 1.5. So the fact that it says z tells us that we're to use the standard normal table. Okay, so negative 1.5, that's what we need to look up. So let's go to the negative table, negative, and we're going to look over for negative 1.5, and then 0, right? Because it's negative 1.50. So there we go. We see it 0.0668. 0.0668. 0.0668, right? It's always a good idea to kind of draw these to make sure your answer makes sense. So here's 0, here is negative 1.5, and what I just found was this little tiny area over here. So yeah, it makes sense that that would be some really small number, right? Definitely a number that's going to be less than half of this, less than 0.5, right? Okay, another example. Let's see, what about if z is less than positive 0.61? So let me try to draw that slightly better. So here's 0. Remember, 0 is always in the center of the standard normal distribution. So positive 0.61 would be over here, 0.61, and we're trying to find this area back here. So we're expecting this number to be more than 0.5, more than half, right? All right, let's go to our table, look up 0.61. Okay, that's for the positive side of the table, 0.61. So 0.6, there it is. And then the second digit is 1, so 0.61, there it is. 0.7291. 0.7291. Okay, 0.7291. All right, so finding areas to the left, basically you just look up the z-value, and the table gives you the area to the left, so you're good to go. Use that table, the value that the table gives you. All right, moving on to finding areas to the right. All right, so this one says to find the area to the right, this is the probability that z is more than 1.62. Okay, so here's 1.62. Actually, it would be kind of further away, but further away from 0. But the point is that it's to the right of 0 because it's positive. Okay, and we're trying to find the probability that z is more than 1.62. So that's this area here. Okay, now the table is going to give us, when I look up 1.62, the table is going to give us this area in red. It's going to give us the probability of being less than 1.62. So to find the area that I've marked in purple, we're going to have to do 1 minus the value that the table gives us. Okay, so let's look at the table. Let's look up 1.62 in the table. So 1.62. Okay, so 1.6 and then we're 0.2. All right, so that's 0.9474. 0.9474. Okay, so 1 minus 0.9474, right? This area in red is 0.9474. So I'm going to have to do 1 minus that to find the area here in purple. So go ahead and pull out your calculator. Do 1 minus 0.9474. 0.474, and you get 0.0526. Okay, so 0.0526. There we go. Which makes sense. This area should be kind of, definitely smaller than half, right? So there we go. That's the probability that Z is more than 1.62. Right. One more. So let's see. We have, so here's 0. Negative 0.55 will be to the left of 0. And we want to know what's the probability that Z is more than negative 0.55. So that's this area marked in purple. But again, the table will provide this area I'm marking right now in green. So I'll have to do 1 minus whatever the table gives me to find the area marked in purple. All right? Remember, the total area under the curve is 1. So 1 minus this area that's in green, that'll give me the area that's in purple. So let's look up negative 0.55. Let's go to the side of the table that's the negative Z values. Okay, so negative 0.5. Then go over to where 0.55, so that's here. And 0.5. Okay, so it looks like, so 0.55. Okay, it looks like that's going to be 0.2912. So 0.2912. Okay, so let's go ahead and write that down. 0.2912. Okay, so go ahead and do that subtraction. 1 minus 0.2912, 0.7088. Okay, 0.7088. Right? And it makes sense that our answer should be a number that's more than 50% because the area marked here in purple is definitely more than half of the distribution. So 0.7088 is your answer. Okay, let's do, lastly, finding areas between an interval. Okay, so for the first one, we want to find the probability that Z is between 0 and 1.21. Okay, so that is this area that I'm marking right now in purple. Okay, so Z is between 0 and 1.21. All right, if I look up 0 in the table, it's going to, what I'm going to be looking up is this area that I'm marking right now in green. Actually, we know what that is. It should be equal to 0. It should be equal to half. Half of the distribution is less than 0, right? But we actually could look it up in the table. You see it right here, the bottom 0, and then you see 0.5, right? It's also on the positive side of the table because I guess 0 is technically not positive or negative. So you see it right there. 0, where Z is 0, the probability is 0.5. So you could use the table, but you really don't have to because, that's half the distribution there. Okay, but if I look up 1.21 in the table, I'm going to get this area that I'm about to mark in yellow, right? All of this area, including the purple area, all of this area, right? So if I look up the probability that Z is less than 1.21, I'm going to get all of this back area. And then I know that the probability that Z is less than 0 is 0.5. Okay, what I want is this between area. So how am I going to find that between area? How am I going to find the purple area that I want? Well, what I could do is I could take whatever the probability that Z is less than 1.21, which is that yellow line that I marked, and then subtract off the probability that Z is less than 0, right? And what I'll be left with is this area that is between. Is that right? Okay. All right, so let's do it. Let's look up 1.21. So 1.21, that is 0.8869. Okay, 0.8869, and then subtract off the probability that Z is less than 0, that's 0.5. Okay, so you'll get the area 0.3869, and that's your answer. All right, let's do another one. Say now we're trying to find the probability that z is between, so here's 0. Oops, that's not a good location for 0. 0 is more like right there. Okay, and then here is negative 1.51, 1.51. I'm trying to find this area between. Okay, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to use the same trick. Right? I'm going to take the larger number. I'm going to find the probability that z is less than that larger number. And then I'm going to take the smaller number, and I'm going to find the probability that z is less than that smaller number and subtract those two. Okay? So I'm going to figure out what's the probability that z is less than 1.51 and subtract off the probability that z is less than negative 1.51. All right, so let's look up my table. Let's look up these two numbers. 1.51, there it is, 1.51, 1.5, and then 1, 0.9345. 0.9345. Okay, 0.9345. And then subtract off the probability that z is less than negative 1.51. So let's look up negative 1.51. Okay, go to the table. Negative 1.51. Okay, 1.51. So that's 0.0655. Okay. Okay, then pull out your calculator. Go ahead and calculate that. 0.9345 minus 0.0655, 0.869. 0.869. Okay, and there you go. There you have it. That's your answer. All right, let's do one more example. All right, so in this case, let's see, I'm going to go and draw it out. I think it's always a good idea to start with drawing out a curve, putting 0 in the center, and then thinking about what area you're trying to find. Okay, so here is negative 2.36, so the left is 0, and then negative 0.45 is also to the left of 0. Okay, so I'm trying to find this area. Okay. So I'm going to use the exact same trick. I'm going to first find the probability that z is less than negative 0.445, and then I'm going to subtract off the probability that z is less than negative 2.36. All right, so let's go ahead. I'm going to go ahead and write that down first. So I'm going to take the probability that z is less than negative 0.54, subtract off the probability that z is less than negative 2.36. All right, so let's look up both these in the table. Negative 0.54, or sorry, is it 54? 45. Negative 0.45. 0.45, so here's 4, and then I go over to where 5 is. All right, and so that's 0.3264. 0.3264. Okay, subtract off the probability that z is less than negative 2.36. So let's go ahead and pull up our table. Negative 2.3, and then over to 6. Okay, so that is 0.0091. Okay, 0.0091. 0.0091. All right, and then go ahead and subtract those two probabilities. Go ahead and pull out your calculator. 0.3264 minus 0.009. Oops. Here, 0.0091. Okay, equals 0.3173. So 0.3173. 0.3173. Right, and that's your answer.